You can have your space, cowboy. I ain't gonna fence you in. What? I don't know. It's just an interesting choice. Anyway, guys, what is up? We are headed off to the movies today, and for the first time, repping that shit. Today we are going to see Solo, a Star Wars story, and this is another movie where the story behind the scenes is almost as interesting as the story that we are going to be getting in front of the camera. So, basically, Han Solo was basically one of the breakout characters of Star Wars.
That was 41 years ago.
It wasn't necessarily a new thing for the roguish guy to end up teaming up with the puckish young lad and his old mentor to take on arms against a fascist government. But Han Solo definitely made it a thing in movies. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have gotten the likes of Captain Jack Sparrow and
Star-Lord
and others and basically other guys whose swagger builds onto it. And Harrison Ford, and the role was career making for Harrison Ford, in the fact that if it wasn't for Han Solo, he wouldn't have gotten Indiana Jones, which wouldn't have led to him getting half the movies he's gotten, Blade Runner, and I don't even know other ones.
Regarding Henry,
other...
Ender's Game, probably,
even though that movie's not all that great.
Yeah. And now we have somebody else stepping into his boots for the first time ever, because we are getting an origin story to this character who so many people for the last 41 years, as of tomorrow, have been watching and been loving.
The thing is, has anyone ever really asked for Han Solo's origin story?
We kind of got it in Legends.
Yeah, the now non-canonical Legends has now been erased from canon. So basically, anything that was said in those about Han's past is gone. But was anyone really going for Han's origin? I mean,
let's face it, nobody was asking for this movie. Are we excited that we got it? A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's still probably
Star Wars.
It's still a modern Star Wars movie, and we have no reason to fear right now. So, let's talk a bit about what's been going on with the movie, as far as we, the public, know.
About 2 years ago, we got the news that Phil Lord and Chris Miller had jumped on had boarded as directors coming off of the success of Lego Movie and 22 Jump Streets.
Now, I personally didn't know what to think about this, because on one hand I knew they were good filmmakers, but on the other hand they had never worked actual serious movies before. Not to say that there's not serious scenes in some of their movies, but the thing is, Phil Lord and Chris Miller's thing has always been, if a movie sounds bad, like a bad idea, they take it and they make it good. So, the likes of A Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs adaptation that has almost nothing to do with the source material. A movie based on Lego. A reboot of 21 Jump Street based around a comedy reboot of 21 Jump Street. It's starring two guys who looked like they could not pass for high school as they were trying. A sequel to a successful comedy movie that everybody loves.
And obviously we thought it was going to work out. Everything seemed like it was off and running. They started production. We were excited when they put out the tweet of the first of the clapboard of day one. But then about 2 or 3 months into production, we got the news that they had been terminated from the production.
Apparently, what Lord and Miller were doing was not what Lucasfilms wanted. It was
a lot of improv. It got very meta. Apparently, at points, Han seemed more like Ace Ventura. The character of Han Solo seemed more like Ace Ventura than he did Han Solo.
So, if that's the case, then yeah, I can understand why they would kind of throw it away. Hey, in a lot of ways, if you're going for you can do that with a small character that we've probably never heard of before, and that would be fun, and that would be fine. I'm sure Lucasfilm would have no problem with it, but in the case of a Han Solo movie, and when you're making the definitive Han Solo origin movie, it's kind of hard to justify that.
It's very hard to do meta in the Star Wars universe because this is a universe. That exists.
They don't really know anything outside the universe.
They can't say stuff is weird. Well, that's weird because
it's what they that's what they know.
But then about 3 or 4 days later, we found out Ron Howard would be taking on the role of directing.
I was on the fence on this. I was on the fence on this one too, but not that I doubt Ron Howard's talents as a director, but he's been kind of on a downhill slide, critical reception wise. I don't hate the guy, but the call came out. But Lucasfilm basically went through their Rolodex of directors because Ron Howard directed Willow for them beforehand, way back when George Lucas was trying to make his second franchise after Star Wars, and they basically said, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope."
Yes.
Yeah, and I've been sitting on that joke for like a year now.
Yeah, we've been sitting on that joke since the news was announced. But anyway, we got a whole new crop of new blood in this movie as well, with Ron Howard's direction. The movie looks okay now. We have a whole new crop of blood in this franchise now. We have Alden Ehrenreich, who has done little to nothing huge in his career so far.
I wish Hail Caesar was more memorable so that I could remember anything about that movie other than him and Ray Fiennes doing a weird back and forth.
We also have now taking on the full Chewbacca duties. We have Jonas Satumatora, I think is how you pronounce his name. I butchered that.
Yeah, probably.
He has a very Russian name.
Yeah.
We also have Emilia Clarke of Game of Thrones fame taking on a role of Kira.
We have never seen Game of Thrones in our entire lives.
We have Woody Harrelson playing Tobias Beckett, a new character.
Honestly, my biggest gripe with him right now is that I don't think Tobias Beckett sounds like a Star Warsy enough name, but I'm nitpicking because the screenwriters, Jonathan Kasdan and Lawrence Kasdan, Lawrence Kasdan is basically the guy who invented what a Star Warsy name is.
And then of course we have the best casting news that came out of this entire movie, Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian.
It turns out that what about Donald Glover? He's nerdy. It wasn't enough to get him in the Spider-Man suit, but it was enough to get him in Lando's cape over one shoulder, designer boots.
This is going to be we of course are very excited to see a lot of the stuff in this movie. We get to see the 3 big things that we needed to see in this movie, which are Han gets the Falcon from Lando, Han meets Chewie, and Han does the Kessel Run. We're
gonna find out how Han can run an 18 parsec smuggling run in 12. Yeah, in case you are the only person on the internet who has not found that particular little tidbit, a parsec is a unit of distance, not a unit of time. Yeah. So we'll find out what that means in about, I don't know how far into the movie it is, and the movie starts in about a half an hour.
But anyway, we're seeing a lot of cool stuff. It looks like we're getting apparently there's more costumes in this than any more original costumes in this than any other Star Wars movie to date in the modern era that they've been working in Star Wars movies,
which really means something.
And we also have a bunch of stuff that's changed up because Ron Howard took over, including editor. We have a new editor. We have Paul Bettany had to take on a role
because unfortunately the original actor was
unavailable to do reshoots.
So they had Paul Bettany take over, and instead of making him a CGI alien, they just made him a scarred up human.
Yeah. We have a lot to say. We're gonna probably have a lot to say about this movie. We're just gonna sit and wait and see how it goes.
But until then, we will see you guys. Wow, we really let this go.
Yeah.
Okay, we will see you guys after the jump.
Yep.
All right. Punch it, Chewie. All right. So, what can be said about Solo: A Star Wars Story?
It was good.
Yeah, really good.
Good, not great.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best Star Wars movie that's come out since Disney bought the rights, but At the very least, it gives you pretty much the best you could hope from not only just the idea of a Han Solo origin movie, but also all the stuff that you could expect from a movie that went through what it had to go through in its post-production process,
including the fact that one of the producers has actually died during post-production.
Huh.
Yeah.
Anyway, but unlike Justice League, where occasionally you could find a little bit of it, I think overall it was pretty seamless, the transition from Lord Miller to Ron Howard.
I honestly stopped looking to try and see, okay, maybe there, maybe there. I honestly tried to stop looking in 5 minutes and just enjoyed the movie, and just started enjoying the movie.
Yeah, overall, I'm pretty sure there are some moments, like there's one or two little
meta jokes.
There's one or two little jokes where you're like, what? Like, maybe that's a Lord Miller, maybe that's a Lord Miller, but we don't know for sure.
There's kind of some meta stuff going on in there that's like, okay, maybe Lord Miller had something to do with that part.
But overall, the thing about Ron Howard is that he's done so many different genres, it's kind of hard to place a particular style onto him. And this is his first, and technically this is his first Western. It's not his first sci-fi movie. It's not his first, and it's also not his first production with Lucasfilms,
as we brought up. But he did okay. But the movie turned out pretty okay, considering everything that's happened with it.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse, considering that the Lord Miller were almost done. They pretty much, they were in the final stretch. They could see it in the distance, and then
it just got ripped away from them. So and not enough that people are going to be standing outside Lucasfilm demanding a Lord Miller cut, because there's no one that exists. They were still filming.
They didn't finish before that. They didn't finish, and this is not a Justice League situation where he finished, but then he stepped away. Where this isn't a Justice League situation where Lord Miller finished their production, finished what they were doing, and then they were going into the editing bay, but then they had to
step away due to other unforeseen circumstances.
This is a situation where they got a lot of the way through filming. Luckily for Ron Howard, because of what Lucasfilm wanted, they at a certain point just started filming the script and then filming the way they wanted to film, and now here we are. But that's enough of the.
Let's enough talk about the drama anymore. Let's talk about the movie itself.
So, overall, I think this is it's a solid Star Wars movie. We're in a place now where where ranking the Star Wars movies is going to start to be
difficult,
because there's going to be so many of them as the years go on.
We just today found out that James Mangold, who did Logan, is doing a Boba Fett movie,
which I'm personally pretty excited about. We'll see who they cast as Boba.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But more importantly, we have to talk about this movie. So, Alden Ehrenreich as Han.
They were throughout the advertising of this, I was like, he kind of looks the part, but but the voice isn't there for me. I'm not saying that you need to straight up do a Harrison Ford impression to play Han. I'm just saying that there's certain mannerisms that come up.
It kind of sells it.
Yeah, the entire time I've been like, maybe when I see the final movie, I'll actually start to see him as Han, and yeah, it happened.
It happened pretty early on.
Within the first 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, you're Han.
Yeah.
He slipped in and out, but it wasn't. But the important thing is he didn't do an impression. He put his own take on it, but in a lot of ways, you do kind of feel like this is the guy who grew up to be Han Solo throughout the next few years, and we'll see. And depending on how this movie goes, let's face it, this movie's going to make $1 billion.
I don't know, but I honestly don't think I want sequels to this.
Well, too bad, because they set him up. Yeah, there's a. Let's talk about the twist without getting spoilery. There's a twist. So
there's a twist that we didn't see coming at all, and I actually talked about it with one of the managers in the theater while Spencer was in the bathroom afterwards.
Huh. Yeah, but there's it's a twist that nobody could have possibly seen coming as it went. It kind of shakes the whole thing. It sets up and it may only be there to set up sequels. It may only be there for fan service. But overall, it was executed well enough. We'll see how things go when the inevitable sequels come out. The sequels that I'm sure either they're going to get some directors they know how to that Lucasfilm knows that he can work well with, or Ron Howard handles himself. We don't know yet, but
We'll see.
But it was work. But it did work on some level, and I wonder where they're going to go with this.
Yeah.
And especially since the timeline matches it. Since since the math and the timeline adds up perfectly for the twist.
Yeah. Donald Glover as Lando, he did I was not convinced when we got the trailers of the voice again. He looked the part, but the voice was just kind of killing me. When we see Lando, he's doing the voice. So they kind of underplayed him in the trailers so that we didn't realize that he was going to be doing a voice.
He's not really doing a Billy D. Though he's not really doing so much a Billy D. Williams impression as he is just essentially putting on he's essentially doing his his usual. Actually, Donald Glover's usual thing isn't even this. It's a little out of his element as an actor it's a little out of his normal idea as an actor because there was Troy in Community, there was the little bit parts he would do throughout 30 Rock, there's Atlanta, which I've only seen the first episode of, but bit by bit, it's basically Donald Glover turning up the swagger up to 11 the best he can, and he nails it.
Yeah. We have Emilia Clarke as Kira. It's a very interesting character. Not 100% sure could get a beat on her.
I think that might have been a good thing, but I
wasn't finding myself emotionally invested in her and Han's story as I think I should have been.
Particularly since, some ways we know how this is. We have an idea of how this is probably going to play out.
So it kind of was hard to get an emotional investment when we know where this relationship could very well end up.
Woody Harrelson as Beckett, he's a little laid back. He's kind of doing the Woody Harrelson thing where he's a little laid back, but he's also kind of playing it like in this whole you don't trust me kind of thing. He's very much he's kind of
like Haymitch from when he played Haymitch from the Hunger Games, except he's a little more got maybe a little more swagger to him.
He's not, and the thing about Beckett is that they've been billing him essentially as Han's mentor, and I feel that that's what the character himself wants to be, not as he's written, but as the character, and that's what he wants to be. He wants to teach this kid the ropes, but he also wants to make it clear to this kid that
don't trust me. And then we have Paul Bettany as Dryden Voss,
our villain for the evening,
and I'm sorry, he was kind of menacing, but at the same time, he was doing a Christopher Walken impression.
It's Paul Bettany. Yeah, Paul Bettany was. I'm sorry. Paul Bettany is the fact that he's now one of the actors who's been in both Marvel and Star Wars, along with Donald Glover, even though they share no scenes. So basically, in either of those franchises. So basically.
Yeah.
But.
Oh, and Jon Favreau as well in this movie.
Oh yeah, Jon Favreau's in this movie too. But
don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. His part is very small.
But
literally and figuratively.
But Paul Bettany in this movie is, I don't know. He's
trying to be a gentleman crime lord, but at the same time,
I don't want to say he's hamming it up because he clearly isn't. He's got an idea. He's got a handle on everything, but
at the same time, he sounded a lot like Christopher Walken from Kangaroo Jack, like playing a Christopher Walken playing a crime boss. Just not like he was just doing the Christopher Walken, but he was like doing the mannerisms. It's like, I'll stab you in the face with a soldering iron. Like that was just sometimes he would just transition into from Paul Bettany, this kind of interesting character, into doing the Christopher Walken impression.
I don't want to rag on the guy because I like his work. Because I like his work, and the obvious reason he got this part was because he's worked with Ron Howard multiple times.
And he's a good actor, and he was good in this movie. It's just at the same time I'm like, I can't get past the fact that you're kind of sounding like Christopher Walken in this scene.
And the fan servicey bits was kind of every time that, and also you will know when the fan service bits come up because that's when the John Williams score is going to start. That's when the actual John Williams score starts to amp up a little bit to just basically say, hey, and that's how that happened. That's how that happened. That's how that happened.
There's some fan servicey stuff. I actually liked the fan servicey stuff as a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, we learn how Han made the Kessel Run. We learn how Han met Chewie, how Han got the Falcon from Lando, how Lando got. We learn a bit about how Lando got the Falcon himself. We learn a bit about, and we get Han and Lando developing their friendship. I'm doing air. Oh, you can't see me. I'm doing air quotes.
Yeah, but otherwise, this was a good movie. Good, not great. Fan service as all hell, but I loved every second of it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's
to
not.
quote Lindsay Ellis, it's fine.
It's
fine.
fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's not gonna. If you were gonna see this, go see it. If not, then if you didn't want this.
Maybe give it a chance because it might change your tune, but at the same time, if you're going in with low expectations, it might help you a little bit.
If you really didn't want this, just don't go. It's not going to hurt anyone.
Don't be like those boycott Solo fuckers who think that boycotting this movie will change the fact that women can be awesome, badass heroes, and black women can be in this movie. That black people can be heroes as well in these movies. Because fuck you and your bullshit. I hate all of you who did that.
That's a thing?
That is a fucking thing. Get your diversity and your feminism out of my Star Wars is one tweet I read.
Wow, you don't know Star Wars at all. Okay, on that happy note,
yes,
let's say our final thoughts. Solo is good.
It's good.
If you wanted to go in, be happy, see a Star Wars movie, see the yearly Star Wars movie, then go, be happy, enjoy the movie. If you didn't want to get, it's probably not going to change your mind, but you know what? Go see it anyway. It's not going to hurt anyone.
What are your expectations?
See it or don't see it. It's not going to hurt It's not going to hurt anybody, and
it's not going to change the world. But look, if you come in with low expectations, it might come out a better experience.
Yeah. But in the end, Solo tells the story of Han Solo in the best way it possibly can who's written all but one movie that Han Solo has actually shown up in.
He's been writing for the character since the 70s. This is his last movie. Give it a chance, but his last time writing for Han. Give it a chance.
And, it's good.
It's good.
Okay, guys. So, be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe to this channel. Like and favorite this video, subscribe to this channel, and be sure to tune in next time when we're having so much fun. It ought to be a crime.